Hey guys, long time no see. Must have got lost in the miles. It's Scott Dreyer, and I will tell you, Knuckles the Echidna, and when I am not guarding the Master Emerald, I am definitely watching Figure 8. And if you don't, it'll be time for a Knuckles sandwich.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Finalhazard podcast. I'm your host, HappyMatt, and I'm always joined by this guy.
I was gonna do a funny voice, but I didn't know how to activate it. So hi, I'm Seth. You know who I am.
I got a couple guests with us too.
I'm Donnie. I'm here for this episode. Yay!
Martin's here too.
Yay!
Yeah, guys, I have a confession to make. I just don't think Sonic the Hedgehog is a smart guy.
It's a crazy thing to say.
He
doesn't know the fucking word gumshoes.
Yeah, I've seen the Sonic movies. I know exactly how Sonic's mental capacity is.
He does flossing and does TikTok.
He has to learn the same lesson every movie, you know? Sorry. But yeah, we're talking about Sonic the Hedgehog's characterization and the Eastern Western identity crisis.
What do we start with?
Can we call this episode Thing Japan?
That's gonna be
what are we calling it?
Thing Japan. Do you know the meme where it's like Thing and the dude's like and then Thing Japan is like yeah.
I understand now.
Western bad, Eastern good.
Oh, okay.
That should be in the thumbnail, not in the title.
Sonic would not fucking say that.
You would not fucking say that. Yeah, we're memeing a little bit on the Sonic the Hedgehog community because they don't like
it's just another case of like, you know, people say that you can never satisfy the Sonic fandom. It's just another case of that.
You can say that about any fandom.
But now, yeah, because I was about to say, like, I feel like I'm starting to see this issue in other places too. But like, now we're kind of dealing with and I've noticed this for years, where different communities and groups and even individual people, their perspective of a character and franchise and what that means to them and what it means culturally is significantly different.
And I think that social media has it's only compounded it.
I think, yeah, the social media aspect of the discussion, it makes it more like it just amplifies it because negativity is really successful.
Rage bait. The engagement bait, rather. Some people just say this shit with their chest. They're not. Some people are
just saying shit to say it, and then suddenly they're the end all. Their opinion is the end all be all. I don't know how that happened.
It's definitely a matter of people become very protective and defensive over their ideas and their perception and how they think that something should be. And because there are usually people that echo that agree, that agree with them, then it becomes kind of an echo chamber for those people. And then when, you know, in reality, canonically, something different might happen, they get very upset.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You see this a lot with like popular comic or manga ends. There's a particular one I'm thinking of that I won't name, but there's a lot of expectations that are formulated through fandom that are not met in canon because there was never any intention for that to happen, and people get upset.
Does the name rhyme with Blira Blackadplamia?
It's my
Shout outs to Clance, bro. Shout out to Clance.
You can't say that.
I can't say that.
No, it's just
I can.
No, you can. It's just I was like, damn, that's trauma. That's trauma.
I mean, we are going to talk about Voltron though.
It circles around because there's expectations of a lot of things. Popular headcanon sort of, I feel like it becomes clouded. Like people forget that it's headcanon and it gets confused with regular canon sometimes.
And especially with something that's been around as long as Sonic has.
Mhm.
And has Sonic is a very, very early example of fandom just going off the rails very early on.
Like there was that whole
Yeah.
there's the whole like Shadow was designed off of Supersonic from the mural like theory, and for the longest time everyone just said that as fact. So
Because it did make
I didn't-
sense. You know?
and I was like, that
felt
makes sense, but like no, that's never been established anywhere.
They just wanted another hedgehog because it works.
Evil
Yeah.
Sonic.
But I thought it was real because for a long time because people said it like it was, you know.
It's real to me, damn it.
It's real.
to me.
It with the Voltron thing, that because it does tie into that is a reboot of an older show that much older. They did not expect it to get the kind of people that were watching it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watching it.
Because
Like that shit is for young boys. I'm not
Yeah.
saying anyone else can't enjoy Voltron or like the target audience is like the default thing. It's just that it's like they weren't expecting as big of an online fan base, and then they started interacting with them, and I don't even think they realized like what that started to create.
And that also happened with shows like Steven Universe.
Oh yeah. Oh brother.
That started out in a way that you would never expect how it would go.
God.
The way that it exploded on social media with a very specific crowd, and they kept feeding them. And when you feed them, inevitably you're going to give them something they don't want, and they're going to get very upset with you.
So I kind of want to talk about not like I guess like the origin point, but I guess like with Sonic when he was first developed and created, because like Sonic's identity when he was first created, I'd say it was like a joint effort between what the Japanese side made and then like what Sega of America was developing over there too.
Mhm.
There was like even back then there were so many different interpretations on an official level. It took a while for them to really have a concrete idea of like, okay, this is Sonic. Like this is just Sonic, right? In terms of like lore, because you had Japanese side of it and then the American side of it making their own thing. What was one of the Japanese things? Seth probably knows. Wasn't it like Sonic is like a fictional character within the story, and the story is actually made by like an author or something?
Yeah, so the original well, I don't know if it ever went into like being part of the lore or if it was all conceptual, like early part, but essentially it's what, like you said, like there was a World War II pilot whose nickname was Sonic because he like flew really fast and he wore a bomber jacket with the logo from like the Sonic title screen, like that logo was on his like bomber jacket, right? And then his daughter or his wife, I don't remember.
I think
but,
it was the
like,
wife.
His wife like wrote, like he died in like the war, and then she wrote stories inspired by him and his like war like accomplishments, and like she wrote stories like children's books featuring Sonic the Hedgehog fighting against the ills of man, so like industry and all that stuff, and like the real world quote unquote like Sega took those quote unquote real books and then adapted it into the video game, and Sonic 1, 2, 3, like in retrospect, Sonic 1, 2, and 3 are all adaptations of books that don't exist.
Which
Within the
is
story.
That's incredible.
And this was canon for a while. Like Sonic was meant to be this sort of he like in the world he's the guy. Like he's not like a god or anything, but the original intention was Sonic was like this like sort of character that danger would come through the ills of man or whatever, and like he would come in and save the day, like no matter what. Like that was what the intention of Sonic was. He was this like
Almost like a Superman type.
Yeah, like Oshima
In that way.
Oshima likens him to like a fairy or a fairy tale creature. He's just like this mythic being.
And you can see that in kind of how the plot, I want to call it, I guess, of the first couple games is, because it's all, there's this evil industrialist. He is capturing small animal creatures and putting them into robots so that they have to fight. And Sonic goes around and destroys the robots, frees the animal creatures, and then, defeats evil industrialists, and nature is saved.
Well, it's not even that Eggman is necessarily evil. He's just a human being. He's just an industrialist. He's a big narcissist.
So he is
like
evil.
that might be but that might be the most evil thing about him, is that he's like a self-absorbed person who loves to hear himself talk.
Right.
But it's kind of this like Sonic is neutral good and Eggman is neutral evil.
Mm-hmm.
Where they have this like, well, Sonic's gonna save the day because it's the right thing to do, and Eggman is destroying where he lives and all of it, where his friends live, and Eggman is, in his eyes, almost, you can kind of look at it like, well, he's helping the world in his own way. He's giving these animals like these superior robot bodies. He's bringing industry to this barren like wasteland of nature or whatever. Like it's two sides of the same coin, and Sonic, they would counterbalance each other, and that was kind of this intention with the dynamic between the two characters. It wasn't necessarily like a superhero and a supervillain kind of thing. It was more like this like balance between human progress and the natural world.
Forces of nature.
Yeah.
Sonic CD, I think, is the best representation of this, because the whole game is about like, if you fail, Eggman takes over and it's like a completely desolate and cold and dark future. But if Sonic succeeds and he gets like the time stones or whatever, the future, it's not like a overgrown paradise. It's actually a technologically advanced future that's in balance with nature. So that's always been this sort of like theme, and that is the core of what the series is from the Japanese side in canon. Like the book thing kind of went to the wayside when the game was made.
Yeah.
But the balance between nature and progress, I'll call it, was the core focus.
Also, like the Christmas Island, like he was born Christmas Island stuff. I don't know if that like continued with the classic era, but like that was also another like backstory. Like he was just like a little guy born on an island.
He just runs fast. I think the Western, like, and then when you talk about like the West and like, and also like in like Japan's influence or like America's influences on Sonic, like Sonic was inherently created to appeal to the West. Like when they talk about like how Sonic was influenced, like he's got the personality of Bill Clinton. His shoes are based on like Michael Jackson.
The music was supposedly composed by him at some point. He's just not credited.
And all that stuff, and I'm like,
which is confirmed true, because that's why the Sonic 3 music is different in the re-release.
Yes, right. You're right. I forgot.
And even the attitude and the just everything about Sonic is like could inherently be American, but it's also from an outsider's perspective as well.
Yeah.
So like it's not completely there.
Sonic himself, if we're talking about Sonic as a character, like he is like baseline, he is like a cool guy, and he's got like this like punk rock kind of like attitude, right? Is that what we're talking about? We're talking about like the difference between how that's interpreted.
Well, first we were talking about, because you talked about like the nature versus like that whole thing, and then Matt was trying to talk about how like Sonic inherently has Western influence, but also it's from an outside, like a Japanese perspective. I was going to say that like it is like, yes,
He also looks like Mickey Mouse.
Exactly, I was going to say he's got Mickey Mouse eyes.
You're right.
Yeah, but like I was saying, so like yeah, there's the inherent Western influence of Sonic, right? But there's also the idea that Sonic himself is kind of this like, he's this he's like the anti-Mario, right? Where Mario is like happy-go-lucky and smiling and rescuing the princess and being the hero. Sonic was made to be the counter to that. He is counterculture. I was gonna say counter. And the differences between Sonic in the 90s in the East, and actually I'll say in Japan, America, and Europe, because they're all
there's
very
three
different.
There's three different.
Europe is also a part of that too.
It's all, but they all stem from the same idea that Sonic is alt and counterculture. In Japan, he's more like, he's not necessarily like the happy-go-lucky cartoon hero, even though he looks like it. He's the proto shonen protagonist. He's kind of like, he's, as I said before, in D&D terms, he's neutral good. He does good because it's the right thing to do, but it's not necessarily because he is this he's like a righteous hero of justice. He's just like, hey, cut that out. There's art of him in the staff room in Sega of him smoking a cigarette. Like, there's like the soundtrack is very poppy, and it's very like it's what was popular at the time, but it's got this like this edge to it, you know. And then go over to America. Well, what is 90s American counterculture at the time? Well, 90s American counterculture is it's leather jackets and having an attitude and skateboarding and rock music and
Environmentalism.
and sticking it to the man. And that's another thing.
Then those cartoons, they would have little lessons. Which one? Not
Adventures
Adventures. Or was it Adventures?
Adventures.
Yeah.
Yeah, Adventures. He'd be like, don't bully people. That's no good, because cartoons in the 90s would have a little message at the end.
They had to.
That's the American like do good like American cartoon hero. And then you look at like Europe Sonic, and he's the stick it to the man that the American version is, but
he's also an asshole.
Yeah. But that's British counterculture, is like, fuck you, fuck the man, like
Punk.
I don't give a like
Fuck you,
that's what it was in the 90s, you know.
What are you gonna say, Mark?
Leather jackets and like British metal. Like that's what like reading Sonic the Comic like felt like to me. Like you look at those characters and they belong on like metal album covers. Like that's what they look like. So you have it's the core idea that Sonic is inherently counterculture. I've said that like a bajillion times. It doesn't sound like a real word anymore. But you bring also back to the balance between nature and human progress, and you add the Western influence of sticking it to the man and, you know, being radical and stuff. What does that mean? Well, now Sonic is a punk. He's a rebel. He's a hero. And Eggman, he's the man. He's coming into your town and throwing in capitalism and industry, man.
We are now in Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, we're now in Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, you're right.
We are
like American. American Eggman, like
that's what we're talking about.
No. Well, I know, like not adventures, but Sad AM Eggman. I don't think he's bringing capitalism anywhere. You know what he's bringing?
He's bringing totalitarianism. He's bringing
totalitarian. Yeah, and
fascism. He's like Sonic is like the rebels. It's Star Wars.
Like freedom fighters.
The American anti-fascism. Whoa! Let me chill.
But that's how that lens. That's how the creators at the time looked at that baseline concept, right?
The Sonic Bible,
which does bring us into the Sonic Bible, yes. But you can kind of see, like, when you look at it that way, like when we're in a series that is being co-developed by two different cultures, you can see how like the same ideas can be portrayed through different lenses. That's why Sonic early on is very different depending on what source you look at it from. Not to you can like Japanese Sonic, for instance. Like you could say that is the source, and that's true. It did come first, and it is the most influential part of the series, because obviously every game is made in Japan now. So, but there's still the hinges of like the westernization of Sonic in there. I feel like a lot of people are used to modern adaptations now, where we try to keep it kind of core to what it is, instead of like trying to mold it into our version of it.
And that's something that is very, well, if we kind of look at the comics, that's something that's very indicative in that.
Mm-hmm.
Because for Archie, they went really different. They did a lot of different stuff.
Yep.
They based a lot of it off of Sad AM, but they also did all sorts of different shit all the time. And they all had they had completely different characters. They had interesting political arcs. They did backstories for, Sonic's parents, Tails' parents, Sally's parents.
Knuckles'
Knuckles is
family.
everything, right? And part of that was because Ken Penders was insane, but part of it was also that they kind of allowed them to do whatever they wanted for a long time.
It's kind of a result of Sega not giving a fuck, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't want to have... They basically said, y'all do whatever you want. We are backing away from this. We're not touching that. We have other shit to worry about. And they took
dying.
that. They took that and they ran with it. And then when Ian came on, he had that... Ian Flynn came on in issue 160. He kind of had that baseline to go from. And yes, Archie Sonic prior to that went insane and was terrible for the majority of it. But he kind of managed to take what they had and wove it into something very interesting, and also managed to expand on it and add new stuff to it.
And a side tangent on Archie and like influence and stuff. Archie Sonic and those like, I'm gonna call it its adolescence. The reason it's like that is because like shit like Ultimate Spider-Man was coming out, and the like teen drama comics were selling, and it was the highest selling Marvel comic. And you also had the anime boom of the early 2000s, and that's why it like looks really weird. Like the things around Sonic have like, in even the strangest like places like Archie, like things that are happening around Sonic have always influenced it in ways.
This is something I was thinking about when we were talking about like the sort of like stick it to the man. So Sonic was always supposed to be a Mario competitor, so basically the opposite. Like, because I guess the perception was that Mario's clean, Sonic is more edgy, quote unquote. Not really. But I also do think it's worth pointing out that Sonic is and was always a product, a commercialized product that was meant to sell. Not to say that there weren't people trying to tell genuine stories, but I do feel as if like the adoption of the punk aesthetics and sort of the counterculture like vibe to it was also just echoing what was considered cool at the time, like what was considered commercially cool.
Yeah,
especially when like promoting it to children or to younger audiences. And that also changes too. Like you said, influences can come from everywhere, but that's also due to what is like popular or what is like seen as like, oh, like this, like whatever the equivalent it is to what you can like make it, but also what sells. Like you said, the anime boom, Marvel Comics, whatever's going on at that time is going to influence that product, because whether people realize it or not, Sonic molds into what it needs to be at that moment, or what Sega thinks it needs to be, or what these people working on it thinks it needs to be to be successful. Whether that works or not, it depends.
And in my personal opinion, I think like, yeah, it should mold itself to what is like at the time like relevant. I think it should still be that baseline though. Not saying this is what you're saying. Now it sounds like, well, Fortnite is popular, so movie Sonic should Fortnite dance. Like no, what's the baseline of Sonic being counterculture is what should be the constant. Like that's the control, and everything that changes should be for the better. And I'm gonna segue this back to I think Martin was going with his thing and then giving it back to him with Ian Flynn coming back and having the comics circle into the games. Is that where you're going?
Yeah, essentially.
Okay.
So the Sonic comics, when Archie was publishing them, were much like the IDW comics. They were meant to... hold on.
They're ads.
I'm trying to think of the word. Yeah. They were meant to advertise the video games, and they were meant to coalesce alongside of them. But the thing is that when you have several years between video games and you have a monthly comic that is coming out, you need to have stuff to fill that gap. So
And comics don't break.
no, comics do not stop because you have multiple writers, you have multiple artists. They're always having freelancers on,
And they need money.
they need that money. So that, you're trying to sell comics that are trying to sell video games. You still have to have the video games align with the comic story, but only every once in a while. And between then, what are you going to do? You can't just have that one video game. You can't have Sonic Adventure 2 take up 3 years worth of comics. You can only maybe have it take up one. So they have to have a bunch of stuff in between then. And that's where they got all the weird shit. That's where they got Charmy the Bee is actually a semi-adult with a fiance who was drained of his energy to the point where he now has the mindset of a 5-year-old.
And his best friend died of an ecstasy overdose.
Oh, 9/11. Oh, 9/11.
Like this shit's crazy.
It's crazy. And it's absolutely insane.
You know what though?
And,
Another thing, it was also it was also like Image Comics, and being
absolutely.
radical and edgy was part of the gig.
Spawn was huge, but that was the thing, is they could do whatever they wanted because Sega was not mandating what they could and couldn't do. Archie was. And they gave Ken so much, and they gave Ian a lot to pick up, and he could basically do whatever he wanted with it until the second reboot happened. Because the first reboot, and then the second one was, oh my gosh, there's 2, and that's the
Isn't that weird? The Sonic comic reboot. Which one?
Exactly. I'm not even talking about like Archie to IDW, because there was 2 before that within Archie.
I know there's the post lawsuit.
Yep, and that was
The post lawsuit one.
That was the Super Genesis wave, I believe, and then
where all of Knuckles' family is conveniently put in a different dimension, so they don't have to be in the comic anymore.
we're just not going to look at that. There's too many of them. Who's Locke? I don't know.
He's
who's
dead.
Scourge? He's dead.
No, my Shayla.
Who and then it's interesting seeing, if you do look into IDW, where some of those influences come from. Like Surge. Excuse me. Green Sonic.
No, I remember when she first came out, and I was like, "Wait a damn minute!"
Like, wait a fucking second.
Minute.
Who is this?
The Ashura glitch.
Surely.
That's true. No, that's
it is true. It is true.
Yeah.
It's just funny.
And Kitsunami is Blue Tails glitch.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not saying that you're wrong, but also, where the Green Sonic was influenced from in the Archie series. It was the same fucking
sounds
thing.
Sounds a lot like Surge too. I don't know.
Like, I'm just
saying.
And that doesn't make me angry or anything, because I think it's interesting, but it's also, it feels safer, and that's because it has to be. But that's the thing, is when they had that first reboot, they got rid of a lot of shit, and then they got to build on that, which does make for very interesting comic. There's a lot of stuff that happens after the reboot that is very interesting stuff. They get rid of a lot of characters that had a lot of development, like Jeffrey had a lot of development. Scourge had a lot of development. I'm trying to think of anyone else off the top of my head, but I'm blanking. All of Knuckles' family, everyone. There's a lot of them. Enerjack gone.
Everything the Freedom Fighters went through in the past year.
It was crazy. It was crazy, and they had to wipe it and start from scratch. And they do end up with some interesting characters, but then they have to reboot again, a second time, which is nuts, because they had started building something, but then they had to reboot it again because they had to get rid of more characters. And then after that reboot, shortly was when Archie was kaput. And they, 10 issues before the 300th issue of the comic.
It's just so sad.
And then they have to start over with IDW. But that's where, the Western legacy is gone.
Yep.
everything that was from Sat AM, everything that was from Freedom Fighters, everything that was from Knuckles Chaotix and all that sort of thing. Well, not Knuckles Chaotix, but like the Knuckles Chaotix comic.
The side series, yeah.
The side series.
Like you're right, because
the entire Knuckles comic.
Even with how different it was, like the DNA of that comic is with Western Sonic, like with the cartoons, like those characters are from the cartoons. Yeah, we ain't getting any Sally shit.
And all of what you were saying, Seth, about the teen drama stuff. There was a goddamn ridiculous amount of shipping. So much in Archie. It goes back and forth.
See, and now you know where it comes from, where the internet like comes in.
The shipping,
because it's integral. It was always there.
Y'all were not there.
Sonic shipping has been canon practically. It is all over the place, and it was always dramatic, and it was always Tails screaming, "I hate you!" and then running away. I hate you, Sonic, because you're dating the girl I like.
30 years to the future, Shadows.
She's
Sally.
12 years older than I am, and it gets.
Who the hell is Mongoose?
Mina Mongoose.
Mina, more like
man.
I don't know.
I want to say though, what did I want to say? Because I think the Archiness. I'm gonna call it the Archiness. Is still there in IDW, but not in the storytelling or the character or world building aspect, and more of like the dialogue, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about this. We've definitely talked about this before, but it was probably years and years and years ago. The thing that Sega now has a much stronger grasp on what Sonic can be when you are outsourcing him, and much similar to
that Netflix show.
Yeah, much more closely to how Nintendo has an incredibly strong chokehold on Mario. I mean, and they have since the 80s. And I think that's part of why Sonic has such an identity crisis, is because Sega, they didn't feel the need to have that much control over how their character was portrayed in media that had Sega's name on it until much later than Nintendo did with Mario.
Like recently, I would argue that only happened a couple years ago when they started to be like, okay guys, let's actually have some brand consistency.
Yeah.
Like Sega had their was like dipping their little fingers, their little toes into the comic, even before like recently. Back in the day, like, you know, they would go in and be like, yo, you need to change this. They would be like, yo, Tracy, change this panel right now.
Yo,
like,
he
Sonic
can't be like that.
Sonic can't be crying like that. Sonic can't look that. Sonic can't look that disheveled.
It's not that
cry,
hard.
but he can't cry like that. You know, it's a lot of that. It was a lot of that before, but they never really cared about like, you know, like what the stories were until they got the big fat fucking legal documents on their desk, and they were like, yo, what the fuck is this?
And the lack of legal documents.
The lack of legal documents.
They forgot to.
Archie just didn't keep track of their shit.
That boggles my mind.
Yeah, I want to talk about now localization in Sonic games.
Oh,
because
because
it's been rough. It's been rough.
Tis been rough. And I want to specifically talk about what do they call it? The meta era. Izuka actually called it the lost decade of Sonic, which was like
lost decade.
Sick as like 2010 to 2020 is the lost decade of Sonic.
Makes
sense. Like the dark ages of Disney.
Yeah.
God damn.
And that's not like a fan term that's being over dramatic. Izuka himself said it. You can look it up. But like in that time, I don't want to call it its fault. The MCU's rise. Oh, it's Seth, and he's bringing up the MCU. I'm so shocked. But
he just bring up the MCU. He just brought up the MCU.
But like MCU became super popular, and what is inherent in all of those movies? It's caked in bathos or bathos, depending on who you ask how they pronounce it. But it's basically bathos is kind of like it's every like that just happened like kind of sort of approach to writing or being not confident. You wrote a story, but you make sure to let your audience know that, yeah, I know this is dumb. I know this is stupid. Isn't it kind of funny how like not like how tryhard it is? Like that became really apparent and the localization of Sonic and
Mm.
Sonic Boom.
Joss Whedon destroyed, like,
He
literary
destroyed cinema.
dialogue. He destroyed
9/11.
dialogue.
He 9/11 cinema.
Yeah. God forbid we have a single moment of sentimentality in anything.
I'm gonna say it. I think a little bit of bathos in storytelling is good. Actually, I think you should treat it like salt. You should put just a little bit of salt on your food. You know, bring out that flavor. But if you cover it in salt, you can't taste the food anymore. Like you just taste salt, and that's how I think it should be applied to storytelling in general. But this was really, really apparent, not so much in Japanese Sonic, but in the American side of things. Like when they got Ken Pontek and Warren Graff on those scripts, it became rough.
Which I will say, just to give some hindsight, I think one of them, Pontac maybe, they did confirm that part of that was Sega's input as well. So it wasn't just fully them.
Right.
Because for years, people were like shitting on them, and I also had beef with their writing style too. But like, I think Pontac said that on Twitter, and I was like, "Oh shit!"
Sega wanted Sega wanted a particular tone. Sega of America, I guess, wanted a particular tone, and they hired people who could deliver that tone. It was then met with the most people. General people hate Sonic 06. Sonic fans hate that era of Sonic, of like the self-awareness and
Post
the like.
Unleashed.
Post Unleashed era.
Oh man, because like I remember I was watching a friend play Unleashed, and I was just saying, like, man, like I mean, I don't really have like strong feelings about that game's story, anyways, but like there is just something kind of nice about that game where it's like it has humor and jokes, but it's so like physical gag heavy. It's just really like nice and lighthearted, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Very
but
simple in
the
execution.
stakes are taken serious. Like it's not like the professor talks about the legend of Dark Gaia and Sonic goes like, "Isn't that weird?" Like, I think the accumulation of it happens in Lost World. I think Lost World is the worst.
Lost World is the worst.
Colors,
case.
I don't even.
I think well, like Colors is like the first game where you're like, oh, that's a little different. You're not like that. Wait, you're not like that. That's not. He wouldn't fucking say that.
I think Colors was like the most like. I think Colors, we like now. I'm actually thinking about it. Like that was the biggest stakes of all, but I don't think Sonic took it as seriously. No. Whereas in Lost World, I think they tried to do it, but it didn't really like I was too slow to say my buddy. That didn't really.
Yeah, because
really
then it became strange melodramatic.
Melodrama. Sorry, now I'm just complaining about Lost World. Do you remember the cutscene where like Sonic is like, we have to work with Eggman? No, you don't want to do it. We kind of have to do. And then Tails like, oh, so you don't trust me to work on the thing? It's like, where'd that come from?
That's just strange writing decisions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sonic.
Yes, we're back.
Yeah, there you go.
Look, you Sonic.
And then
Tails starts talking about like Sonic sleeping with his girlfriend, and he's like, "Fuck you,
Sonic." And then you have like Forces, which is like Forces is, you know what? Like the first episode of this podcast or whatever is me and Lewis saying we'll never talk about Sonic Forces ever again, and now here we are.
It's 6 years later. It's kind of a ghost that haunts this community.
Here we are 6 years later talking about.
I won't spend too much time on it, but it's just like fandom wise and game wise, like it doesn't leave you. Even with IDW, that is still post Forces. I don't even think they haven't progressed that far.
The IDW comics are unfortunately like they're in a chokehold by this shitty ass game with its shitty ass writing, and this shitty ass plot. I feel like it can't progress because every time you blink, oh, we're here at the Restoration HQ. Get me out of here! Get me out!
I want to talk about, because you brought up that he wouldn't fucking say that. I think though, for a long time, and to some extent still is a valid point. It's being delivered by some people that don't know how to deliver message. Like in Japan, Sonic games were like they were still kind of straightforward. They were bound to what the game wanted, because I think Lost World story was made in America, I think.
Yeah, so
So
I think what it was that previously the Japanese team wrote those stories and they just simply translated them and localized them. It wasn't really a case of like, oh, the Western writers are writing the story. I think Lost World was a case where Ken and Pontiac wrote that story, or at least were mainly like credited to be like the driving force behind that. And then Forces, they didn't. Forces was Japanese team, and then they just did localization.
Right. So with Lost World, they like the Japanese side still had to abide by like all the story beats and stuff, but the dialogue is played a little more straightforward. It's on YouTube. There's a translation, and it's different. It is substantially different.
What's their name? Wendy. They do like translations. That's like the YouTube channel where it has like the, I guess, like the quote unquote like accurate.
And for a while, like, because you had this like 2010s like Joss Whedon influenced Sonic in like the American localization for a long time, people were looking at the Japanese interpretation of these cutscenes and they were going like, this is played so much more straightforward and it still has the same energy as the old games. Why are you changing it so much? And then eventually, post Forces, we're now in an era where there's a little more synergy between the localization now. There's still some differences here and there, but because they're trying to link it back. But when things like that are specifically like kind of like I'm gonna call them remnants of the lost years, peek back in to like the newer stuff, people are like, whoa, like they're trained to like. People are like almost trained to point out
fight or flight response.
It's like a fight or flight response, of like character inconsistency. I think some of it is a little in like Frontiers' case. I think Frontiers and like the Shadow Gen's case, it's like, guys, he just worded it differently because that's how language works. But it's Sonic PTSD. It's
voice acting
PTSD.
Also plays a part in this too. Like the recast, I think like it's still contentious with people. Some people like the cast, some people don't. I think like Roger being casted was also a big factor.
One of my main issues with Frontiers was that I felt like the voice acting and the writing just did not match, because the writing was the script was definitely meant to be very sentimental, very genuine, not necessarily down to earth, but not as much witty quipping. But these voice actors have been in the game, the Sonic game, since 2010, 2011. They just aren't used to playing the characters that way. And it comes across as very odd and awkward.
Like you have Cindy Robinson in Frontiers doing these really like somber and like sentimental scenes with like Sonic and like the Cocos that like lost their lover in like battle and shit, and like all the kids.
They're ghosts. They're like dead people.
Yeah.
It's dark.
And she just sounds fucking dead. She just sounds dead the entire game. It's like
she's not even using the Amy. It's like she's not even using the Amy voice anymore. She's just talking into the microphone.
Talking, and I'm like,
and it doesn't sound right.
Here's the thing. I think it's okay. The voice direction for Sonic, like English dub wise, has always been so fucking strange. Or at least for the past like 10, like 15 years, it's been really strange. It's been inconsistent.
It's been weird since the inception, I think.
Yeah.
Like,
I was also gonna say that like Frontiers, I don't know if this was the reason, but I feel like in previous games people did not like how like hammy or kind of forced it was. I remember like Roger in those early games sounds really rough because he's trying to force this very like, hey guys, it means like this, that kind of voice. And I feel like he did get his footing later on, because I personally don't mind his portrayal. But the problem with Frontiers is that I think they wanted a more quote unquote natural delivery or a more like mature delivery from these characters. But what you end up having is that it feels like an overcorrection. Sega overcorrects too much sometimes. It's like, oh, you don't like Sonic's annoying friends? Well, they're just not going to be in the game for like 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, you don't like Sonic's annoying voice? We're going to make him sound like this.
People wrote blog posts about how Sonic had too many friends and they couldn't keep track. So then for like 10 years, they only had Tails show up.
And maybe Amy and Knuckles, but like they're not going to do anything.
And Knuckles is just going to be a stupid idiot.
that has been in place for so long. Like if you ever get the chance to go to a convention, you go and you like listen to like the adventure era voice actors, and talking about like their experience on the game and in the booth and stuff. When Sega wants something like the way they want it, they're gonna be like, they're in that shit. They're like, raw. Like, like you gotta talk like this, you gotta talk like that, and it's like, whoa.
Even if
like,
it culturally doesn't make sense, and that's why Knuckles says aura, 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 and like when you dig.
Oh my god.
and-
Nice.
Rats.
Rats.
Or Eggman goes Yosh. We don't say Yosh, but that's a thing that Eggman says in the Japanese, and Sega Japan wants him to say it.
Sonic voice acting is kind of cooked, and
It varies
also,
upon how weird it is.
and then
And
it impacts your reading comprehension.
I
guess.
I love Shadow's original voice actor from Sonic Adventure 2, David Humphrey. I love that voice for Shadow. I think it is perfect. I think he's incredible. He plays him amazingly well. Some of Shadow's like reactions and how he is portrayed in that game are perfect. And then I say this kind of as a joke because I think it's a funny way to get a reaction out of people who really like Shadow the Hedgehog. I think Shadow should have stayed dead at the end of Sonic Adventure 2, but he didn't, and that's fine. And then Jason Griffith was Shadow for a while, and then Kirk Thornton is Shadow now. And Kirk Thornton is, I think he could do it because I know he can play sentimental, genuine characters. He's in fucking Kingdom Hearts, but I also think that the way he played Shadow for a long ass time was a very specific way. And then when they did Sonic X Shadow Generations or whatever, it just, oh my gosh, some of those moments are so supposed to be very, very sad, and you can feel it, and it almost gets there. And then he talks. And and at the, it's not that bad. It's not as obvious of
I feel like Chad Jens is like one of his better performances as Shadow.
I'm trying to
I
remember.
remember what he said at Expo.
Yeah, at Expo. Yeah. I remember what he said. So basically, when Kirk was casted all those years ago, they basically told him like, yeah, so the way you're gonna play Shadows, you're gonna make him sound cool. And like, wait, what was the specific?
Dark and badass.
Dark and badass. So Kirk's thought process was Clint Eastwood, I think it was.
Oh my god!
So Kirk Thornton's Shadow is his best Clint Eastwood impression, basically.
That's great.
He self-admitted a poor man's Clint Eastwood impression.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I love Kirk Thornton, but
you also have to remember that I'm sorry, also like I have to double check this, that he didn't really know much about Shadow's backstory until like Gens.
Yeah, he said that at Anime Expo last year.
Like those motherfuckers just didn't tell him. I guess because it wasn't important for like over 12 years. So sure, but like, it was like, what?
So Shadow Gens came out this year, right? Last year. 2024, right?
Last year.
Okay, so at Anime Expo 2024, I believe it was, Kirk said at like this, there was a big panel where they showed off the animation Dark Beginnings,
which is great.
Yeah, they showed off Dark Beginnings. So it was him, Stephanie Shea, and like Zeno Robinson was on the panel.
Yeah,
was moderating the panel.
I was about to say, why was he there?
Yeah,
just the host. I thought he was gonna be in the game, but he's not.
Oh damn!
And basically, like one of the things Kirk said was, "Oh, I don't I didn't know anything about like Shadow's backstory until this like the recording process for this game started." And
that is actually crazy because he's been Shadow for 14 years at that point.
So like you got people asking like, so you have all these people talking about Maria on the Twitter takeovers.
Oh my god!
And he's like, who the fuck is Maria?
I don't know who that is.
I don't know who that is.
Which I guess like you could think about, it's like, I mean, sure, Maria and all that stuff hasn't been relevant for like 15 years almost. Like when he was hired on to do Shadow wasn't in games. So like I can't blame him, but it was still strange. I was gonna say earlier, the Shadow thing is also a good like thing of like, like trying to appeal to like Western sensibilities with that fuck ass game. That's a big example.
And there's we've talked about it on here. I think we talked about it a lot back in like, I don't know the exact, I can't cite the exact episode, but it was definitely one of the Shadow centric episodes from last year, where we talked about mischaracterization of Shadow, the misrepresentation of who he is.
Yeah.
And that was caused, and a lot of that was caused by, as Donnie said before, Sega overcorrecting, or just like, or saying things, or like turning Shadow into this character who's not who he is. Like fucking like, oh, Shadow doesn't have friends. Shadow is a loner.
Dude,
like
that shit was so funny.
That shit was crazy.
What the fuck do you mean? What do you mean?
Like I don't. And then there's lines like, I don't run, I fight. Or
in IDW, yeah.
In IDW, like there's like from like most of the writers, Evan Stanley and Ian Flynn, have gone on record saying that Shadow is probably one of the most difficult characters to write for, because of think it's
Sega
because
is
of
so
all the
particular. Sonic Team is so particular about how Shadow should be characterized.
But then they don't know what Shadow is. They don't,
because
they won't tell them.
Because it changes.
For a long time, they wouldn't tell them. It's different now because Shadow is more in the spotlight and he has his own game, and you know,
Shadow Gens was
Reeves.
Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, and I believe we said it. I think we said it in the Shadow Gens game review podcast, that this game kind of served as a course correction for Shadow, in the same way that like a bunch of the Knuckles stuff that came out around the time Frontiers was coming out did.
Yeah,
like including the movie and all that.
See,
my knuckles.
And something I think is interesting about Shadow, being in the movie and stuff, is that, part of the whole marketing behind that was, oh my god, they got Keanu Reeves to be fucking Shadow the Hedgehog. That's crazy. And the thing with the sentimentality also comes into play with that, because I've been playing a lot of Cyberpunk 2077 in the past couple days, and I'm not gonna give any thoughts on how I feel about the game. I have been playing it a lot though, and I have not stopped playing it. But Keanu Reeves is a multi-talented individual. He is also, and I'm gonna get mega hate for saying this, I don't think he's that good of an actor. Bro is not an incredible actor. He's great at a lot of things. He's an insane stuntman. He's, I think that I've watched a lot of Keanu Reeves movies, and I just don't think he's that good of an actor. He never has been. He was brought on for, like Bill and Ted, and then what? Dracula. Let's make Keanu Reeves the main character in Dracula, the man who cannot do a British accent to save his life. And he's not that good of an actor. He's okay. He's great as Shadow in the moments where he needs to be a stoic badass. And then the moment he needs to be emotional, it's awkward. It doesn't feel right.
It sounds a little off. Won't hold. I didn't mind his performance as Shadow in that movie though, but like, yeah.
No, I think
that DLC was cooked.
Well, that shit was recorded last minute, and they were like, we only got one session. Just fucking go.
We can only afford him for so long, guys.
Yeah.
Like, bro's got to go make John Wick 4. And
is this the way Maria described it?
But that's the thing, is that I do think he's great as Shadow in the movie when he's in his element. The moment he's out of that element, I'm like, oh god, this sounds so awkward. It just doesn't sound right.
I was gonna loop this back to the video games because like this, I feel like this goes back to this thing where it's like Sega is gonna make Sonic what he needs to be in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes that's a little awkward because what he needs to be or what they want him to be sometimes isn't concrete
Yeah.
or gets like retroactively backtracked. So then it just kind of makes everything confusing. So go back to the lost decade, because this is something I've been thinking about recently, where it's like it's like you said, people have the knee-jerk reaction to stuff that is reminiscent of that era, right?
Yeah.
But I also do have to wonder, like, I feel like when you have people who aren't really that familiar with Sonic, aka you bring on those writers, Pontac and Graf, and they are being directed to do something specific with that character, where it's like, okay, but like, this is not a Sonic that you don't like this particularly, but like, I guess in my mind, the way I see it is that characters evolving and changing for whatever time period, it can be either good or bad, but like ultimately that is what they are in that moment.
Yeah.
Like when you have something that is supposed to be versatile, even like fucking Sonic Boom. So do you think Sonic Boom was supposed to replace the mainline thing? I know it was always a side thing, but do you think that was supposed to be like, okay, we have the
I think the
American
intent.
Sonic.
I think the intent definitely behind the scenes was because Sonic Boom was in development since I think
2009 or some shit.
no, 07. Like
Oh,
after
fuck.
06, I think.
Holy shit.
Oh, because that game pooped, so they're like, what do we do?
I think,
What do we do?
and obviously there was like the development hell that it went through, and like I definitely think they were considering that the Sonic Boom would be the direction Sonic went, or Sonic Synergy, or whatever it was before it got weird. Because Sonic Boom was an unrelated cartoon that they synergized to
During the
synergized to just then be the part of that reboot. It's two different projects merged together. But like I think it was because there's toys and there's merch and there was
comics.
a TV show and 2 games at launch and comics, and I definitely think that behind the scenes they were going to pull the trigger, and then they saw the reaction to the teaser and they were like, fuck no, we can't do that.
We put so much money into this. Abort.
So then they just said, don't worry you guys, as damage control. This is not replacing Sonic.
This is a side thing, which I feel like
I think that part is theory on my end.
Would you say it's? I'm actually not gonna say it.
Theory,
I wouldn't say it.
Yeah.
That guy's not on YouTube anymore.
I do think with the games, it's like the Sonic Boom games. That's probably the most like, would I say, egregious example of that sort of like Western writing of like, well, that just happened.
Yes.
Because it's very explicitly supposed to be that. It's not even like, oh, like this Japanese game and they got the Western. Like, no, this is an American, but like overtly, like in such a way that was like, even like it pushed it. Redesigns, a whole different aesthetic.
70 plus episodes of a cartoon show. Like
Motherfuckers were watching though.
They were going all in on Sonic Boom.
At 6 a.m. on a Saturday.
Oh,
they were definitely watching that shit.
And people
were. Yeah. Well, that shit was on was that on the weekday or the weekday? I was not
Saturday.
tuning into that shit. I watched that. I watched that Kiss cartoon. Rest in peace.
I want to thank you for bringing up Sonic Boom and how it's different from the like Lost World or whatever, for not being a localization, because I wanted to talk about how we talked about the lost decade of Sonic and the US specifically having this weird like Joss Whedon Marvel-esque type of tone in response to the criticism of like Sonic is stupid from like the edgy, well, because the 2000s outlook on Japanese media in the West particularly was kind of caked in racism. So there was a lot of like push against Sonic being what it was, and that's why they brought in that kind of audience, that kind of thing in the American sense of it. I don't know what I'm talking about. The American writing, that's why it's like that for a while. It was a heavy overcorrection, like you guys brought up earlier, that Sega tends to do. But in the Japanese side, it was fairly consistent. And in fact, it's really consistent. Even the Sonic has these the Sega of Japan, they put out prose stories every once in a while. Again, also really consistent. I don't know, I haven't read all of them, but and the bits and pieces I have read, it is very like, oh, this is like Sonic X almost, like, or like, oh, this is like this insert this like late 2000s, early 90s Sonic thing here. And then recently we had 2 new manga series. The one that just came out, Sonic and the Blade of Courage, and the last one, Jet Black Shadow the Hedgehog or something.
Yeah.
People read those and it was like, whoa, this is refreshing. Like, this is weird.
It
this
almost was like weird to
but
read.
It was weird to read as an American like Sonic fan who's experienced all these years of like this insecure almost localization, to then go into like what is essentially the Sonic that never changed. It was kind of like, it was like reading, it was like seeing an old friend. That it was like,
oh my
whoa.
God. Oh my God.
I guess that if you take anything away from this video, is like, yeah, there is clear differences, and there was a weird rocky, and you're right to be upset about certain things, but I see there's light at the end of the tunnel. Like I think,
I also do think there can be a middle ground. Like I also feel like there can be like the marrying of the two. Like I also want the takeaway not to be a Western bad. Like that's not the case, because I like writers like Ian Flynn and even Evan, and like there's people who have worked on Sonic who are not Japanese who have been like,
there's
yeah,
some
like, I like
Sonic
that.
jokes that are pretty funny too. I'll admit it.
Sonic Boom also has the benefit of being not canon and super different. So I'm able to just like the good and the bad. I'm able to just keep that to the side and be like, yeah, that was a fun little thought experiment. So 06 flopped.
Yeah.
06.
No,
flopped.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, okay.
I was not aware of that.
Did?
Yeah,
Actually, I remember 06 actually sold well.
06 didn't flop. It sucked, but it made a lot of money. It made a lot of money.
Yeah.
Sonic 06 is the Transformers Age of Extinction of the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise.
All right.
It made
Mark
no.
Wahlberg.
Hear me out. It made so much money. Like everyone bought it and everyone played it, and it sucked so fucking much.
And there's a moment where
killed
Mark
all the
Wahlberg's
momentum.
and there's a moment where Mark Wahlberg's daughter's boyfriend shows him a card that says, "Yeah, I'm allowed to date your underage teenage daughter."
Yeah, I don't know why they did that to Sonic Man.
Why'd they do that in Sonic? Yo, Mark Wahlberg and Sonic the Hedgehog.
Make him Sonic Man.
Sonic.
I brought up 06 because not just with 06, but I guess with like the other games that came out after, like the last night. What the fuck?
The Lost Night.
The Lost Night.
I two things got combined in my mind. Do you think also that Sonic having this Western push, like with new writers and new tone, do you also think that could have been like not the main reason, but I think there is also like this weird anti-Japanese mindset in game journalism, like back in the 2000s, like in the late 2000s too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I brought that up earlier.
Like Sonic's too anime and stupid. It makes no sense.
Because Sonic 06 is written like a JRPG. Is written like a JRPG.
It's not the best JRPG.
Not the best JRPG.
Because it's literally so long. It's so long. I still haven't finished that fucking game. I keep giving up.
Is it the longest Sonic game?
It has to be. Absolutely. It's so long. And you'd think, and I remember when Frontiers was being like marketed, I was like, maybe this will be like another long Sonic game, and we'll be able to get that terrible taste out of our mouths of long Sonic games being terrible. And then it wasn't as long, and I'm like, God damn it, it's so long. Hold on.
16 hours.
Frontiers is only long if you take your time.
Yeah.
06 is just long because it's fucking long.
It's long because you're struggling.
It's long because you're
trying to do anything.
You're struggling, and there's 3 fucking stories of main and here's the thing: the 3 fucking stories in Sonic Adventure 2 are like, all right, we got one main story, the coalescence of those 2 stories. Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 is 3 separate stories from 3 separate characters, one of whom we have to establish an entire fucking backstory for, and where he came from and how that happened and what's going on. And also, he is the hardest to play. Silver's story is so difficult because it is so broken.
Oh my god.
Yeah, this is a lot.
It's a lot.
I did bring that up earlier, and like, you're absolutely right about the initial the early 2000s like anti-Japanese like sensibilities in games and journalism was like it was racism, dude. Like, I swear, like, it was xenophobia. And if you get upset at me for saying that, I want you to go back to like old G4 reviews of like
Oh
my God.
of some of these games and listen to what that dude says.
That dude.
Adam fucking Sessler, dude. Adam Sessler.
Also, that
Like,
one
if
girl
you
host.
listen-
You remember that clip? It was so strange.
But yeah, that was definitely part of it. That's why I didn't get vocal songs in Sonic games for a while, because they heard people thought they were stupid and they
They're not
got rid
stupid.
Oh no.
They're not stupid. You're stupid.
Yeah.
of. I'm glad they brought them back. Except, I think
That
this
recent
new
one.
one.
That new Crossworlds one. Yo,
Not
y'all
it.
got to go back to the drawing board on that one.
Listen,
gang.
Johnny is a nice guy,
Just pay him.
and I think he's great.
They need to pay
And
Johnny
you need to give
Gioeli.
him the money he deserves.
Give Johnny Gioeli his money right now, Sega. I'm not playing with you.
Let him have Crush 40 live at Too Many Games, and don't have it just be him singing over instrumentals. Give him a band. Come on. Let's go. Sorry, I've seen it. I've been to Too Many Games where Johnny was there twice now, and it was great. But
I watched his
also,
performance at Sonic Expo. It was nice.
do you know who I am?
No.
He canceled. He canceled the year I went to Sonic Expo.
That sucks. That's sad.
Sag.
Sag. Before we started recording, Seth said this is going to be the episode where he said, "Wow, that's crazy."
No.
A lot.
I knew
Yeah.
Seth was gonna have a lot to say in this episode.
I didn't think I did.
Friends. I know my friends.
Before we hit record, I was gonna be like, I don't know if I like have a lot to say. I'll probably just be reacting and saying like, "Damn, that's crazy." No,
I know you. I know you. I know you. We've known each other for years. I know you, bro.
We had a whole conversation about this like a week or two ago, like this topic, and I was like, you know what, I should just be on the pod for this one because I have shit to say, even if I haven't like engaged in half of this.
We kind of touched on like the adaptation, the Western and Eastern influences. We talked about it a lot, but but like I want to like also go back to that like time period in which Sonic was created,
it's
and like
infancy.
and just like kind of look at how the market was when it came to adapting properties from foreign countries and bringing them over to America to suit the American audience, and how that like influenced Sonic. So when I mentioned Voltron, I wasn't talking about no legendary defender.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't
talking about Go Lion.
I'm talking about I'm talking about Go Lion and Voltron, the defender of the universe, the greatest thing ever.
But what if we made Pidge a girl instead?
Like, yeah, no, but Voltron is like adapted from this like old 80s like Toei and super robot anime called Go Lion,
And it's great.
And then but then there's like these other like 3 like Toei super robot mecha anime that were also adapted into Voltron, and it was melded together into one big like thing. They do a lot of things to like adapt these shows, like these licensors Like they'll change plot lines. They'll combine two shows that have nothing to do with one another.
Say, I'm looking up Voltron. In the later episodes, they take footage from a completely different show
Yeah.
called Armored Fleet
Yeah. That's so there's two Voltrons. There's the lions, the 5 lions that become Voltron, and then there is Vehicle Voltron, which is like a wholly different thing. It's like 5 different teams of people, of pilots, and they all pilot like different like vehicle themed robots that combine into Die Rugger, which is Voltron or whatever the fuck. Yeah, people will they'll Americanize the shit out of these things. Like Robotech. Robotech is a whole beast. Yeah. I'm not going into Robotech on here.
As someone who's really into super robot stuff, I haven't even touched. I haven't even touched like
Robotech.
It's too much.
Robotech is cooked. Robotech is like
it's crazy.
4 different. It's like 4 different anime. They're all like mishmashed into one big old thing franchise. And because of the licensing hell that it's in, no one the Macross franchise can't be localized
Ever again.
English.
I
Ever again.
I love Macross, and that's part of why I haven't gotten into Robotech is because I just feel like it would be so confusing. Also, just wouldn't really work. Macross relies a lot on like the culture of like Japanese idols to kind of work, and if you don't have that, it's very difficult to like localize that concept.
Like, do you even have your Oshi?
Yeah, bro, your Oshi man. You can't.
You know who my Oshi is?
I don't want to know.
Shut the fuck up.
Shadow the Hedgehog.
Oh yeah. I
Like-
love when he before he graduated to become a TV actor, and then when all of the I don't know where to go with this. I lost the plot.
So like the whole thing, like, and like kind of like, and then there's also Transformers, and a whole bunch of other thing.
Power Rangers.
But like, and like, how we talked about earlier about how like the Archie comics were kind of created to be this adaptation, or not an adaptation, like a promotional vehicle for the games. We could say that like things like Mighty Morphing Power Rangers, which also came out the same year as Sonic, funnily enough. I might be wrong.
Yeah, you're definitely wrong on that.
I'm
sorry. Sorry to say.
Is it 90? Was it 93 or 91?
93, and Sonic was 91.
Oh, okay. Similar.
Close enough. Very close enough.
Close enough.
I miss Jason David Frank.
Yes. So like
Rest in Power Ranger.
Power Ranger. Yeah. So Power Rangers is also another one of those amalgamation shows. Specifically, the first 3 seasons of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers are a big amalgamation of like 3 different Super Sentai seasons into one big 3-season package. And then there's overall like the way how they handled like adapting these shows and making their own thing, and then also creating their own lore, like with shit like the Morphin Grid. Like the Archie comics did a lot of that stuff. Like there's like a billion different Chaos Emeralds, and they're fucking on different planets.
Power Gems.
Or gems.
No, I'm not correcting. I'm just like adding that.
Oh yeah.
Because there's also Power Gems, which are like a whole fucking thing, and there's the Master Emeralds there still, but I mean that's from the game, and then there's just a bunch of different things that they add to it. There's a giant god panda in another universe. His name is Faust.
Who resides over the combined versions of the real Chaos Emeralds, which were actually millions of them scattered across the universe.
Like this ain't no Dragon Ball shit, bro. There's so many.
There's just a lot of shit going on. I just think that influences people, and like just these different ways of interpretation, all different like areas and like cultural influences has just made the community confused on what Sonic is supposed to be.
Because here's the thing too, right? Like I kind of said this earlier, and this is why I said the whole thing of like these versions, I don't really see them as like being like wrong. It's just more so what they are at that period of time. That's why I also feel like people need to understand people having different interpretations of this character and how they perceive him, like, is influenced by whatever they got into at that time, and like what, like, also what was around Sonic at that time as well. Because like someone in the 90s, you couldn't tell them that like their perception of Sonic as this like hyper radical, like, fuck you, mama me, my chili dog, like, type character. That's not wrong, because that's what he was portrayed as in like all American media. They didn't have the Japanese shit to go off of. That's what Sonic was to fucking children in the 90s, and that's probably what he still is to some people who haven't like fucking played those games in like 30 years.
Hey, I'll have you know, I play Sonic Adventure 2 at least every other year.
Yeah. See, that's the correct.
It's
that's the correct
pink.
spot. But like also, there's a whole lot of talk about like new gen fans and people who got in through the movies and they don't know shit. And like on one hand, like I get it's annoying. I do think though that it's like, hey, can we really like blame somebody who hasn't been here before and they watch the movies and like that is their first like thing that opens them up to the franchise? Like, can we really say that that's wrong for them to be like, oh yeah, that's Sonic because that's how he's being portrayed in these movies?
And the thing that I think is really odd about that is a lot of those people are children.
Yes, they're kids.
People who are getting
under 12. Like, what are we doing?
I've seen, and meanwhile, and I'm not saying like I'm better than those people, but when I see a small like 6-year-old at the mall and he's got a little Sonic backpack that's very obviously like a movie Sonic, I think it's cute, and I'm like, I'm glad that there are new Sonic fans, because for a long time this was an aging fandom. All right. For a long time, it was just, there was a flat number of people that were into Sonic, and if you were into Sonic, then there wasn't a lot of new blood coming in. And now
You're telling me that when you see the little 6-year-old Sonic backpack, you don't walk up to him and snap it out of their hands and go, "That's not Sonic."
He wouldn't fucking say that.
You give him a copy of Sonic X, but not dubbed, and you're like, go watch that, you little shit.
And it's all Japanese.
They should, though.
S-O-N-I-C, go! But
And
no, when I see them like playing Sonic with each other, like with their little Sonic toys, and I hear them doing their best little 6-year-old Sonic voice and having him say something, I walk over and I kick the toys and I step on them and I smash them into pieces and I say, he wouldn't fucking say that.
Yeah. But like, that's the thing where it's like, I think people need to understand that like, if a company is pushing a specific portrayal of a character and people get into it from that version, then that's what Sonic is to them. Like, for better or for worse. I think also I brought up the whole like outside influences too. This isn't just a fan thing. This is what the people who work on it too. The comics, like the early comics, like obviously they were taking from the cartoons because that's what it was based off of. But then as it kept going and more writers got on, like Seth said, the influences were like Spider-Man, Marvel Comics. Why? Because like the closest comparison point you can have to a character like Sonic, who's being portrayed as this like hero character, what's like the closest thing? Like if you're like a 12-year-old who likes Sonic, what else do you like? Spider-Man. That's like your
Spider-Man.
That's your closest compare
specifically Ultimate Spider-Man, and it's like teen drama-esque because it was the highest selling comic at the time, and you gotta take from the moneymakers.
If it is the 90s and you are looking at a popular comic book series with a counterculture main character, it's going to be Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That is where that is going to be influenced from. And to the point where, you know, when Archie Sonic was having an arc of like, you know, oh, the world might end. They called it Endgame. And then Ken Penders got very upset when Marvel did the same thing.
What the fuck? No.
But why would Ken ever get upset at fucking Marvel? He's been stealing from them for years.
Exactly.
No, but he wants to have the money and whatever. Whatever.
No, you see, I came up with, I'm sorry, this every time I'm here, this happens. Ken.
Well, it always goes back to him. But even like, okay, so like let's say the game like fucking the 2000s, I'll say like mid to late 2000s to what was out at the time around Sonic. Like in Western media, Marvel movies are starting to come out too. You have like
And they're
Iron
huge.
Man.
They're
Yeah, then they got
huge.
super big. There's probably
So
some,
much money.
or if you want to think about like cartoons and just other kids' media, like Ben 10, some like superhero cartoons and like other shows.
Pontiac wrote on Generator Rex.
He did?
Yes.
That makes so much sense.
It makes so much sense.
See, like this is what I'm talking about.
Because Generator Rex was a huge Ben 10 ripoff.
Well,
And
it was made by the same people.
no, yeah.
Yeah,
But listen, I'm not saying ripoff as I'm sorry. Ripoff is the wrong word. It was very much influenced by a previous thing that they made that got hella big.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
Ben 10's son.
Ben 10's son.
But yeah, that's the point I'm trying to make is that like even the stuff around like for a fan, for someone who is into Sonic, even like the stuff and the societal culture around something can also shape your perception of this character too. You know, like was there a discourse about whether or not Sonic was a superhero or not? I feel like there was like a couple years ago, or if you're like, is he a hero? Like the typical like idea of what a hero is, and like some people were saying yes he is, some people were saying no. I'm kind of in the no camp, but like I can't really blame people for being like he is a hero because of what their idea of this sort of character in other media and how they act and what they do. You know, but obviously the other point is that can be a different idea in Japanese media. Like even the early inception of Sonic as a Japanese character, he's more like a myth. He's more like a legend. They don't really classify. Yeah,
trickster god. He's
Loki.
Loki.
Which I think, yeah, well, it's more like Sun Wukong.
Hey,
Sun Wukong.
Except we also have that in Archie.
God,
yeah,
damn it.
I think I think the Americanization or influence of Sonic is a good thing. I think without it, we wouldn't have the quote unquote correct Sonic from like the Japanese like Sonic X or whatever, or the Japanese interpretation of Sonic. Without American influence, we wouldn't have that version of Sonic, which everyone loves. So I think there is a balance that can be struck. And I think we're seeing it with this new manga that just came out. It's the marriage of it that really needs to be brought forward. Like there's a reason why when Sonic comes to the real world in Sonic X, he doesn't go to Japan, he goes to America. You know?
Or like fake America, yeah. But,
no, they're in real America. They go to like Las Vegas in that one episode, remember?
Oh yeah, you're right.
They're in the White House. Like that's
at this rate, Sonic is gonna become president, yeah.
Like I think the American Sonic influence on Sonic is a good thing because like that's part of the legacy of the character.
It's in his DNA.
Even my preferred the correct quote unquote version like that has all that influence. And I think that Sonic is heading in a good direction. I think we're hitting a bump, but we're getting there.
Yeah, for all of our griping, I do want to say I think that what Shadow X Sonic Generations has taught me, at least, is that there is a light at the end of this tunnel, and we're getting closer.
Yeah,
They're
censoring Rouge's boobs for some fucking reason.
We'll talk about that later.
We're getting somewhere.
but just remember, he wouldn't fucking say that.
He would not fucking say that.
He would not say that.
Because Sonic's stupid. He doesn't know what a gumshoe is.
When we think about this, what are we criticizing? Are we criticizing the fact that Sonic is Americanized, or are we criticizing the American sensibilities of modern post-Joss Whedon, post-MCU popularity, post-Bathos cynicism injecting into all of our media? That's what we should be criticizing. That's what you should be saying should be kept from Sonic. Not the fact that he likes chili dogs. Not the fact that he says like funny words sometimes, like gumshoes. Not
he
the fact
likes to read.
Not the fact. Okay.
He was Sonic have a phone. Should Sonic have a phone, guys?
Listen, Sonic and the Black Knight. He literally is reading a book. Therefore, Sonic can read.
What the hell are we talking about?
Thank you guys for listening to this ramble about Sonic the Hedgehog and
Thank you for listening.
an American in America for the past like 2
West.
hours. Oh yeah, remember to follow Figure 8 on all of our social media platforms and join the Discord to have
Yeah.
thrilling Sonic the Hedgehog discussions and anime discussions as well. And check out some of our other cool videos.
I've never watched My
Um,
Hero Academia.
And say the fucking line, Seth.
boycott mainstream Disney media and demand sentimentality back in American storytelling, and have a good day, and we'll see you next adventure.
Yeah.